An extremely disturbing scandal has erupted in the aftermath of Trump starting the war with Iran, which is in one of the first waves of strikes by joint U.S.-Israeli forces. It is becoming increasingly clear that we killed a school full of girls, of children. And initially, the White House response was, oh, no, that probably wasn't us, but we'll investigate. And then it got confirmed, yes, this was us, but Trump is completely going out there and lying about it. Even after Fox News hosts like Laura Ingraham are calling this out and saying, come out and be clear. Come out and admit. Because it's only going to get worse if you don't. Media reports Fox's Laura Ingraham demands U.S. address girls' school tragedy head on after Trump blames it on Iran. And I've seen a few people giving Laura Ingraham credit with this. I guess she should get some credit. I mean, it feels like a basic thing to do if you're at all in the public eye and covering politics. But she's now a couple times been like, hey, Trump administration, you need to address this head on and stop with this. Well, I don't know. We don't really know. It's horrific. And it's your duty to own up to it. We're going to circle back to Laura Ingraham in a second. But first, here's another Fox anchor and the correspondent fact-checking Trump's denials here.
And Jen Griffin, our national security correspondent, one of the questions, Jen, in that news conference was about the strike on the girls' school that's next to a base in Iran, and it was a Tomahawk missile. The president saying Tomahawks are used by other countries, but an investigation is ongoing. What do we know about where that stands?
Well, that was a bit surprising to me because basically the U.S. has Tomahawks. Tomahawks have to be fired from either submarines or from warships. The Brits and the Australians have Tomahawks, but they're not part of this conflict. And then you also have the Japanese who are in a testing phase. So it seems highly unlikely that it would be anyone's Tomahawk other than a U.S. Tomahawk that hit that school. And I think the president knows that. He just knows that this is certainly a mistake, a big mistake, and it's being investigated, but he's trying to sort of muddy the waters by talking about the Tomahawks.
Just the quickest pause for the video amid all of this chaos. If you do appreciate these updates, please click the subscribe button, click the like button. Both of those are completely free, but subscribe is the most important to support what we do. Back to the video.
Yeah, they were saying that they didn't believe it was theirs, or they believed that Iran misfired something. Are we sure that it was a Tomahawk that hit that school?
There's no evidence that the Iranians fired anything at the school. If you look at the satellite imageries, and there've been a lot of investigations from the air, from these satellite photos showing the impact and showing the likelihood that it was a Tomahawk.
So the response from defenders of Trump will be pointing to the horrific atrocities of the Iranian regime. And it's like, no, of course, the Iranian regime has done horrible things to civilians. And one of the reasons that we are supposed to be proud of ourselves as Americans is because we hold ourselves to a higher standard than that. We oppose those sorts of atrocities. But now you can't even get a straightforward answer from our government about us massacring children. I'm assuming for sure on accident, but nevertheless, there's now dozens of dead schoolgirls. Because if I get a misfire, and meanwhile, you can't even get the U.S. president to address this with the type of gravity and seriousness that it deserves. Watch when he was confronted.
Yeah. Please, go ahead.
There's footage that shows that an American missile strike and a Tomahawk missile likely destroyed that Iranian girls' school. So will the U.S. accept any responsibility?
Well, I haven't seen it, and I will say that the Tomahawk, which is one of the most powerful weapons around, is used by, is sold and used by other countries, you know that. And whether it's Iran, who also has some Tomahawks, I wish they had more, but whether it's Iran or somebody else, the fact that a Tomahawk is very generic, it's sold to other countries.
So he's just making that up, by the way. I mean, you just heard a Fox News correspondent fact check that that's not true. That's a completely incoherent explanation. So then you have Laura Ingraham calling out the Trump administration on this. You have the Brett Baier and Jennifer Griffin calling it out. And even so, Trump refuses to just concede to the facts of the situation. And so a journalist had a really well-crafted question for him after that.
You just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation. But Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous.
Every time he says, as you know, it's because he doesn't know if what he's saying is accurate. He's just trying to like convince you into not questioning it.
Other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
Ugh. So did you hear the question was brilliant by this journalist? But then did you hear how he started his answer with, oh, I said something that this is what the subtext of what he said was. I said something that I completely made up because I didn't really know what was going on. But it just happened. Like that was in the same press conference where he went, oh no, I think that was actually an Iranian Tomahawk. Couldn't be that, given what was explained. And he goes, but I didn't really know much. I don't know much about it. Well, then why are you coming up with random theories? How about you go learn about it and then address it as the U.S. president? Okay, then we get back to Laura Ingraham. You know the state of things are wild when she kind of seems like she's had it with some of the stories coming out of the Trump administration. This has to do with a report that was insane. That Lindsey Graham, you remember, who was it? It was like either Witkoff or someone was going to Putin and coaching Putin on how to interact with Trump. Or was it Epstein? It might have been Epstein. I think there actually was a report about how him advising Putin about. But then you also had a Trump administration official, is that crazy, guiding Putin through how he could sort of win Trump over. And you go, this is insane. Why would they be doing that? And then here you have a report about Lindsey Graham giving Netanyahu advice about how to pressure Trump into or win him over into joining the war. And Laura Ingraham didn't seem to like that.
I want to ask about what the Wall Street Journal is reporting about your colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham. The Journal is saying that Graham traveled several times to Israel in recent weeks to help make the case on Iran, meeting with members of the country's intelligence agency, spoke with Netanyahu, coaching him on how to lobby President Trump for action. Graham said that Netanyahu showed the president intel that persuaded President Trump to go ahead. Senator, I know you all talk to foreign leaders, and that happens routinely. But speaking to a foreign leader on the precipice of war and seeming to be lobbying or being an intermediary, which this seems to indicate, is that the right way to go?
Well, listen, Lindsey is passionate about defending America, and he is on the road a lot. He's talking to world leaders all over the world. There are times when I agree with Lindsey. There are times when I don't. But when it comes to the threat...
Well, what about this? Well, what about this? I mean, this is something of a totally different level, is it not?
No, actually, when it comes to the threat Iran poses, Lindsey agrees they pose a major threat to America, and I agree they pose a major threat to America. Look, Lindsey and I disagreed on the Iraq War. He thought the Iraq War was a good idea. I thought the Iraq War was a mistake. I think Iran is fundamentally different because Saddam Hussein was not murdering Americans on the scale and level that Iran has been doing. Saddam Hussein was not funding Hamas and Hezbollah killing Americans. And President Trump acted boldly to take out a regime that had been killing Americans over and over.
But we're not disagreeing on that.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Our point is working with Netanyahu so closely to lobby President Trump, acting as an intermediary for a foreign country. Is that appropriate? That was my simple question. I'm not trying to be difficult here, but that's slightly unusual.
So I looked it up to remind myself. Yes, it was Witkoff coaching a Putin aide on how Putin should talk to Trump to get what he wants. And then now you have Lindsey Graham. It's just such a weird world where you have these people who want something, in this case, Lindsey Graham wanting us to go to war. And so then you have him going and like, here's what you can say if you compliment Trump's tie. Like, I don't know if that's what it was, but oh my gosh, just make sure you do not mention the rash on his neck or the brown thing on his hand or the ankle. Just if you don't mention any of those things, you'll be in a better place. And compliment his son Barron. He will ask you who that is, but then remind him it's his son, and then that'll be good. And kind of giving them some tools to lobby Trump is a definite weird scenario.
Well, is it not? I agree with you on the other points.
I don't think it's a fair characterization that Lindsey is an intermediary for Israel. And a lot of the critics say, oh, the war is all about Israel. Understand, it's not about Israel. It is about America. The reason President Trump acted is to defend America. There's a reason.
And we're going to talk about in a little bit, I think it's one of the next segments, the potential end of this, and the conclusion being something that puts us maybe just in a worse place than we were before. Okay. And so when they talk about the defense of America or how these actions are going to prevent Iran from ever funding or supporting our adversaries ever again, or working against our interests or harming our people, what it looks like is we're going to have stoked even more animosity. We're going to not have toppled the regime. We will have killed a bunch of people, and Americans will have been killed by the Iranian government, and then we'll move on. And then they'll go back to what they were doing before, with literally the son of the guy who was in charge before being in charge now. That's where it looks like this is heading. So when they give you these grand explanations of how, no, trust me, with these big strikes and billions of dollars being spent just in a few days, somehow that's magically going to make everything better, they're making that up, and they can't explain logistically how that even works. Then you have Megyn Kelly upset with Lindsey Graham. But here's what's bothering me. I'm going to repeat it again. I think it's very strategic on the part of the Megyn Kellys of the world of trying to make Lindsey Graham the chief villain. And there's plenty of reason for him to be a villain, but instead of putting all the responsibility on Trump's shoulders. Here she's going, Trump, you need to distance yourself from Lindsey. You got to get him. Oh, Lindsey shouldn't be anywhere close to you. As if Trump was kind of done wrong by Lindsey Graham. And they don't seem to level the same criticism for the guy who actually made the decision. Okay, call out Lindsey Graham for lobbying for the wrong decision. But guess who actually made the decision ultimately? The guy that you helped to get into office. Will you word it that way ever, Megyn?
Trump called Graham this week to praise his television appearances. Oh my God. Graham saw an opportunity. The senator said he pitched Trump on bombing Iranian and Hezbollah elements inside Lebanon. Trump said he'd think about it. Graham recalled, quote, I just think he has seen the capability of our military. Graham goes on, what I don't understand is why more people don't do it. Try to shape these events. This is a moment of world history here. Just jump in the deep end of the pool. This guy is a homicidal maniac with a bloodlust that is insatiable. He got us into the Iranian war, Lindsey Graham. Now he wants us to get involved.
Trump did. You see what I mean? They love to make it about just Lindsey because then they don't have to contend with their role in supporting Trump. That's what this is. So then if it's all Lindsey's fault, no, Trump got misled. Is it ever Trump's responsibility when he's the commander-in-chief, when he's the one actually making the final decision?
In a Lebanese war, which is Israel's already starting or involved in, and he wants us to go into Cuba. From the sound of it, possibly, is that a boots on the ground situation? I don't know, but this guy should be nowhere near President Trump. He should not be allowed within 20 feet of the president's orbit, and the president should make the decision to keep this guy the hell away from him, or at least in his own mind, shut down his influence. This is not a force for good in the...
What if Trump just agrees with him? Why? They treat him like a child. It drives me crazy. Even the people calling out the decision still treat Trump like a child. Someone needs to keep Lindsey away from Trump.
You're my daddy.
Lindsey's doing such good tricks on that thing. He's convincing Trump into going to war.
I love cows.
Hey, he's the president. Does he not have any agency? He's just a little baby. If you leave someone in the room with him long enough, they'll show him fun, like, animations of what war looks like, and then he'll declare war. We can't. It's not his fault.
A brain.
So annoying.